And so it answered the questions about Jesus, alayhi salam. Even as a Christian, I never could believe that Jesus was Son of God. As a Catholic, I had a problem with the Trinity. I didn't understand how three things could be one, but then they're also three, and I couldn't find anybody that answered it. So over lunch, we're talking, and he says, why don't you look into Islam? And I remember I said to him, I said, no, that's not for me. That's a religion for terrorists and black separatists, right? And then that evening, this was on a Wednesday, that evening I went to a bookstore on Wednesday night to buy a Bible. I was going to buy a Bible and read the Bible and get my life good. On my way to the religion section, I passed the Eastern philosophy section. And in the Eastern philosophy section is where they had Islam. They didn't put it in the religion section. This is in 1996. When I put it back, right next to it was the translation of the meanings of the Quran, Yusuf Ali's. And so this book that I was just reading had referenced the Quran, so let me look at it. I picked it up. I opened up, I kid you not, to the very first page of Surah Al-Maryam. And I read it. I read it in the bookstore. By the time I was finished the chapter, I was in tears. Because as an ex-Catholic, ex-Christian, it answered in that one chapter every question that I had as a previous Christian that no pastor, no priest could answer. But so then Thursday morning I go to school and then I meet this Senegalese man. His name is Khadim, and I'm still in touch with him today. And I walk up and I'm just looking at his things, and he looks at me and he has this really big smile and he says, how are you? And I said, I'm fine. And he says, brother, are you Muslim? And then I told him that I'm not, but I bought the Quran last night. And like it was if like he had found out that he had won the greatest award that you could, the Nobel Peace Prize or something. He was so happy. And he came and he gave me a hug and he said, this is such great news. And then he told me that he was a Muslim. And then he immediately explains that, you know, as a Muslim, we pray 5 times a day. And right now is the time for one of our prayers and we can't delay. Would you mind standing and watching my stuff for me while I go and pray? And I'm a little taken aback and okay, I'll do it. And then he says, you know, and if you don't mind, if someone comes, if you could sell them this for this much, this costs this much, you know, and I'll return. And I said, sure. And then he left. And then as I'm sitting there, you know, again, no, I'm not Muslim.
He trusted you for his...
Yeah, so, and I'm not Muslim, right? So I'm looking at this cash box and he's got a lot of cash in it. And I'm thinking, I could just take this. He doesn't know how to find me. He's never seen me before. I could just take this and go and he'd have no way to catch me. And then immediately as that thought occurred, I realized that he knows this too. And he doesn't care. And then immediately in my heart, I thought, whatever he has that made him not care about this, that's what I want. But when he came back, he was glowing. And this is a swarthy, dark African man, but he was glowing with the brightest light that I had ever seen. And I had never seen, I came later to know that this is Nur, right? But I had never seen it before. And he was just glowing. And then he comes back and says, thank you. And I'm sitting and I'm talking with him. And then a Pakistani brother comes up and they know each other. They say salam to each other. They do the Muslim greeting. And then the Pakistani looks at me and says, are you Muslim? And at this point, I'm just like, what? I don't understand what's... But then he says, have you ever been to a mosque before? And I said, no. At this point, it's Thursday. And I said, no, I've never. And he said, would you like to go tomorrow? Tomorrow's a day of congregation for Muslims, and it's the day that we meet at the mosque. And I said, oh, I'd love to go. And he had called ahead and told them. And this was at the MCA Mosque in Santa Clara, California. And then we sat down and they just asked me about my life and questions about, my faith and what I knew. And they explained about the 5 pillars of Islam, the angels, the day of judgment, the books, the life of the grave. And they asked me if I had any problem with any of this. And I said, no, this all feels right to me. And so they said, would you like to become a Muslim? And surprisingly to myself, I said yes. I said I would like to become a Muslim. And so he held my hand and had me say the Shahada, and I closed my eyes. The moment I said Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, I felt as though I lifted off the ground. And this isn't some esotericism, like I really felt that my body left. And I opened my eyes because I was so shocked by it. And later I understand that you're forgiven, and the heavy burden of sins that you're carrying have a physical manifestation, and you felt light from this. And they welcomed it. And then consequently, years later, my mother has embraced Islam, my stepfather embraced Islam, my younger brother embraced Islam as well. So that was my conversion to Islam. It was from Wednesday saying that I wanted to make a change in my life, thinking I wanted to go back to Christianity, to Friday becoming a Muslim.